Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the first intro video of Comic Book Writing 101. If you are here today, it's probably because you want to get into comic book writing. You don't know where to start. You're trying to figure things out. You're trying to get an idea. How do you take the words or the ideas in your head and turn them into a physical book that people can read and enjoy? And I'm here to tell you about that. That is what I'm here to do today. I'm not here to tell you that my methods are God. I'm not here to tell you that what I say is right and what other people are saying is wrong. I'm not trying to say that this is the only way. The goal here, ladies and gentlemen, is that if I can make you leave here a more confident writer, a more capable writer in the medium of comic books, then I have met my goal. And it is a very simple goal. And that is what I'm trying to achieve here. I made this course because when I first started writing comics, I had been writing all different mediums. I had been writing screenplays. I had been writing short stories. I had been writing poems. I had been writing songs, music. I had been writing books. And when it came to comic books, I realized that it was such a different ball game when writing for a comic book, because a comic book differs in amount of people that you're writing for when you write it. When you write a book, you're writing for one audience, the reader. When you write a screenplay, you're writing for one audience, the reader. When you write a poem, you're writing for one audience, the reader. But when it comes to comic books, you actually write for a couple different people at one time, and there is a couple different people that you have to keep in mind when you're writing one. So there were no courses out there, nothing specific on that. So I decided to make this course, put it together for people who are just trying to get their feet wet, just trying to figure out like what to do here and how to navigate these waters, because this is something that I didn't have when I started. I kind of had to figure it out on my own. So we're going to go through everything from writing a book, creating a character, down to choosing an artist, where to find artists, choosing a letterer, choosing a colorist. There's a lot that goes into this. So hopefully it's value filled and it can give you some information that you could take, you can use, you can make your books and be more successful and go on and do great things in the comic industry. So let's get into it. Okay, so like I was saying, when you are writing a comic book script, you are writing for several different people at one time, and you have to keep these people in mind at all times. So when you're writing a comic book script, right, you are writing for who? You're writing for, of course, your audience. You're writing for the people that will go to the comic book shops and get it. You are writing for the people that will back your Kickstarter and and wait for you to mail it to them. You're writing for the people that will go to your website and download it and take it home or buy the physical copy online. You're writing for your audience, of course, right? But you're not just writing for your audience. Now, when you're writing a comic book script, you're actually writing for your artist. Artist. You're writing for your artist as well. So I think that this is very important because I have to make it clear that when you're writing a comic book script, it's very important that you're vivid. It's very important that you put in as much information and you give the artist as much detail as you possibly can uh, beforehand, because this will help you avoid having to go back because the artist had to take some stuff into suggestion. Nothing should be left up to a guess or assumption when it comes to your book. It should be clear, it should be concise, it should be detailed, and everything that you want to happen in that book needs to be expressed clearly to your artist. So that is very important. But you're not just writing for your artist, you're also writing for your colorist, because color is just more than blue, red, orange. color is a mood. It's a vibe. It's the car raced down the long endless highway with the blue contrasting horizon in its backdrop. It sets a mood for the colorist to develop when they're making your book. So you're writing for your colorists as well. You're being descriptive. You're describing the colors of things. You're giving out color palettes. You're expressing the texture of things just to give the colorist and your artist a better idea of what you are trying to explain. And this might go without saying, but you are writing for your letterer as well. I don't think that I know of a letterer. I don't even think it's common practice for a letterer to rewrite what you wrote on your script into the comic book. Most letterers, I think all letterers will copy and paste exactly what you write on your script into your book. So that means your punctuation, your grammar, everything has to be on point. It's very important to get an editor before you submit your book to your letterer. There's some wiggle room when you're working with the colorist and the artist, but when you're sending to your letterer, that's when your dialogue and everything has to be on point. Because the letterer is not your editor. He's not going to change. He or she is not going to change anything because they're under the assumption that whatever you put on that script is what you want in your book. So if there are grammatical problems, they're probably assuming that, hey, this is something you did purposely. Maybe it fits the archetype of a character. That's how they talk. Or maybe it's just something with the theme in your book. So they're not going to change anything and have you come back and say, hey, why did you change that? They're going to leave it exactly as is. And they're going to put whatever you put on the paper in your book. And most letterers that I've worked with, they'll send me it first and they'll say, hey, let me know if this is good. But there might be people who don't work like that. So you can save yourself a lot of time and money by getting an editor or taking an extreme amount of time to make sure that your book is everything that it needs to be before you send it to the letterer. So there are a couple people that you're writing for when you're writing a comic book. And there are some artists out there now that can actually that can actually illustrate to a different type of script than a standard comic script, right? Some artists, which I think they're very talented, they can illustrate to a Hollywood film script format and convert that into panels and make that into a comic book. And I applaud those guys because I think that's extremely difficult because there's no one set method to writing a comic book script, but there are ways that you can make it easier for the team that you're working with so they could get the work done effectively, because the end goal isn't just to get cool art and just to but it's to get the job done as efficiently and as quickly as possible, because there's people out there that want to read your book. So if you can get it done the first time, which will happen in a perfect world, which we don't live in, then that would be great, because then you can move on to the next phase. You can move on to the next book. So it's very important that that you take these things into account. So let's take a look at what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at a script that I have wrote, a little portion of it, and we're going to see how that looks compared to an actual comic script. Let's look at that right now. Okay, so what we have here is a script that I had wrote about a year ago. And as you can see, it has a particular format. It has a lot of things going on, parentheticals. There's a lot of stuff here because this is intended for a film format. This is intended for somebody to take this and make it into a film. So the guys, there's some guys that can take this and make this into a comic, and I think that's great. But there's a easier, more effective way, in my opinion, to making this that way. So let's look at this one. So this one says the ambulance takes off, quickly banking the corner. As soon as it does, Robert, traffic. Justin, come on. Robert, teasing. Someone's depending on you to get there, Mr. Paramedic. What you gonna do? Justin flips the light and runs the sirens. Robert, let's go, Moses. Park the red. Robert grabs on tight as Justin veers off the road and takes the sidewalk. Robert, you know that's against policy and the law, right? Justin, well, sometimes you gotta wait to be reminded. They reach the front of the jam, and Robert braces himself as Justin carelessly zips through the intersection. Robert, you trying to kill me? So as you can see, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of scenes. There's a lot of action. There's a lot for an artist to choose from here, to choose a panel to make your book. So there's a little bit more of an effective way, in my opinion, to doing that. So now let's take a look at the script for my book, Average Joe. Let's look at the first panel. Now, as you can see, I wrote this in an entirely different format. This is what some would call Marvel format. So this is a whole different format of writing, but it's geared towards writing for your artist. It's geared towards writing for your colorist. It's geared towards writing for your team, so they can understand exactly what you're trying to convey through your book. And this is just one panel of a 28-page book. This is just one panel here. But let's take a look at this. So it says page 1, 4 panels. So this, I'm writing for my artist. I gave him the page. I gave him the panels on top of everything. So this makes it so much easier for an artist. An artist, he doesn't have to look through anything. He just looks. He says, oh, this is page 1. It has 4 panels. He can set up his page and he can get to work. You're making the work so much more efficient for him this way. I know there's other ways. Some people use spreadsheets, and there's a lot of other ways to do it, but this is how I do it. So I tell them page 1, panel 1, that's for the artist. Page 1, 4 panels, that's for my artist. Panel 1, this is for my artist. This is for my colorist. This is for my letterer. This is who this is for. So it says wide on the bedroom as Max Buchanan lays in bed. The digital alarm clock reads 4:59. The alarm clock sits on the nightstand along with a few small books. And I could go on and on. So mind you that everything in this panel did not make it into the book. But I'm from the school of thought that I like to give the artist more than he needs than not give him enough and leave room for him to assume something, and then me to come back and say, well, that doesn't need to be like that. See, some people take different approaches to making comic books. Some people say, listen, what I put on this paper is exactly what I want in the book. I take a little bit more of a loose approach to it. I tell the artist, I say, hey, look, the script is a guideline. It's not handcuffs. If you feel that the wide on the bedroom up here on top, if you feel like the wide view isn't as good as a close-up of him, then let's see how that works. And sometimes, and a lot of times, the artist knows and it works great. Other times, the artist might say, hey, maybe this might work better. And sometimes it might be no. It might be, hey, well, it doesn't fit that character. It would mess up the flow of the book. It would mess up things that's going to happen later. This is a Easter egg. So it's a collaborative work, and I feel that it's a back and forth at times. And it's good to work that way, in my opinion. What works for me probably won't work for everyone, but I feel like that's a good way to work. So as you can see, this is totally different from film script. You can see on the bottom here a little bit, it's kind of cut off and now it's blocked a little bit, but you can see at the bottom here that it says Max. I'm telling them that Max is saying this. I'm saying box. That means that The letterer, I'm writing for my letterer now. I'm telling the letterer, hey, you're gonna put this in a box. Now I could have went deeper and said, hey, put the box on the left top right corner, right on top of the bed. But hey, put the box wherever you feel it would fit best, because I count each member of my team as a specialist. They know their lane. I'm not going to tell the letterer what's best for lettering. I'm not really going to tell my artist what's best for art. And I don't expect them to tell me what's best for my vision and my creation, but I'm open to suggestions. And a lot of times they are too. So it's a collaborative work. And yeah, so it's about efficiency for me. So now that we can see the difference between a film script and a panel from a comic script, let's see if we can change this film script into a comic script. Let's see if we could do that. Okay, so I'm looking at the script here. I'm sorry you can't see it, but I'm looking at the script here, and it says what? The ambulance takes off quickly, banking the corner. As soon as it does, Robert says traffic, and Justin says, come on. Okay, so if I was to turn this, it's good, and I'm sure that a very talented artist would be able to convert that. But if I was to convert this to make it easier, I would first think, let me write for my artist. So I will put page one, page one. I'll let them know what page he's on. Then I'll let them know, hey, all right, this is the first panel that I would like for you to illustrate for me. Now, it's my job to effectively communicate this to him and let him know exactly what I want from him. And this is where it's important to be vivid. It's important to be descriptive. It's important to say exactly what you want. Work with your team, work with your artist. Okay, so it says the ambulance takes off, banking the corner as soon as it does. Okay, so let's say panel one, we see an old rusty ambulance banking the corner of a busy city street. Black smoke rises from the back as it does. A pedestrian jumps out of the way as the vehicle wildly turns. So I'm not gonna win any awards for this for this writing here, but this should give you an idea of what's going on here. So let's take a look. I wrote my page. I let them know the page. I said, hey, this is what we see. We see an old rusty ambulance. I'm being very descriptive. That way I'm not just going to say ambulance if I mean rusty ambulance, because then when I'm like, hey, later he submits the art and the ambulance is pristine, I'm like, no, it's supposed to be rusty. He's like, well, you didn't say that. You have to be very precise, very vivid. I'm speaking to my artist. I'm speaking to my colorist. I'm telling him black smoke rises from the back, not gray smoke, not white smoke. No, it's black smoke. And the ambulance is old and rusty. Incorporate that into the colors. You see what I'm saying here? I'm setting a mood. I'm setting a vibe. Things are crazy. My artist can see this. My colorist can see this. He knows that there's movement. He knows that there's jumping. The pedestrian jumps out of the way as the vehicle turns. So he would denote that. The artist would denote that into the art somehow, the movement of the character jumping out of the way, which sets the scene, it sets the mood, and you get exactly what I want him to write. and I'm happy, he's happy. We move on to the next part of the process and we get the book done. So I hope that this was valuable. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you got a little bit more. I hope you're leaving here with something that you didn't have before. And if you found this valuable and you found this very helpful, definitely it would be great if you were to subscribe to the channel, hit the post notifications, give this video a like. It'll allow me to put this video out to a lot more people, reach a lot more people, and help a lot more first time and new comic book writers out. So I plan on coming back here in about 2 weeks with the next episode, maybe sooner. Don't quote me. I'm in college and everything, but I hope to be back in 2 weeks with the next episode, and I cannot wait to talk about the next part of the process of creating a comic book. You guys have a great day, and thank you very, very much.